Good afternoon and happy Friday, traders. Welcome to this week's Trade Zone Market weekly review. Sorry, a little bit tongue twisted there. So this week, primarily, we've seen a pretty mixed dollar. We've seen pretty much mixed trade so far from risk markets to the dollar. It's been a few moves. It hasn't been a quiet week, so to speak, but yeah, there hasn't been really too much meters gained or lost, so to speak. So we can see here with the dollar, we started with a very firm session to start the week with a decline, with a bit of a peak back yesterday. It revolves around comments coming out from the Fed in regards to interest rates. So we are seeing a little bit more talk now about if things are right, could we see a cut? Other Fed members are saying they're in no hurry to cut. We had Powell speaking on Monday. Some of his comments did send the dollar higher that day. So it's been mixed as usual, and we can see, in terms of the comments being a little bit of a roller coaster up and down, you can see prices sort of following those leads as well. But US stock indexes have been far from quiet this week. We've seen some really nice moves. They've been sort of mainly ignoring the rhetoric that's been coming out during the week. We can see the US 30 here. It's had a nice week. We didn't quite touch new records, but it's been another good week. And we did see some records on the Nasdaq. This is the NDX 100. We can see a push into new records 2 days in a row. And the SPX 500 also did the same yesterday. And we had a move into 5,000, which is the first time ever for that index. And it didn't close in 5,000, but that's a pretty solid sign that it did. So we can see how nice some of these continuation bars have been. We hope some of you have been getting onto these. It's been a really nice trend upwards. We haven't discussed the S&P really too much, but the US 30, for instance, hasn't been as clean, but yeah, the bars have still been pretty good. Only these two really here would have put a bit of pressure on you, depending on where you entered, especially if you did enter there. But overall, it's been a good weekend. It's been a great month, and it's been a really good start to the year for equities. So things aren't exactly the same though in Europe. We will touch on some of the Asian indexes. The Nikkei is also hitting records at the moment, prices not seen since the 90s. So I read earlier today. So the ASX, for instance, it's had a pretty decent week. We had those records on the previous week. Haven't really been able to get up there just yet. The rates this week were on hold as expected, but I think the message was a little bit iffy. I think that has sort of drained a little bit of confidence out of local traders, but we can see that we've still had a pretty solid week so far. It's been really not just one way, but that was after that strong move down. Now, the JPN 225, just as mentioned, we can see these highs it's been putting in for the start of the year. I don't have too much data on this market. I'll just have a quick look. Yeah, that's sort of it. So we can see how beautiful this trend has been going since 2011 here. It's just really been one way, and we've had these new pushes higher, and we can just see yesterday and today we can see the price is continuing to push up. So we'll just go back to the daily. So we can see so far today we've had a bit of a pullback, but we have seen a high put in at 37,279. It's a really firm price after yesterday's beautiful rally. The yen has been weaker at this stage, so we'll just touch on a couple more stock indices before we jump into some of the FX charts. But we can see that the German 30, for instance, we just zoom back in. It's been a little bit quieter this week. It did touch a record a couple of days ago, but it hasn't really been able to hold at those levels. And the UK 100, the FTSE, it's had a 2-day decline so far. It's been a little bit off the boil, and the CAC, which is generally a pretty firm index in terms of Europe when momentum's up and running, we have seen, like the DAX, it's put in a new high, and we can see that it is off a little bit. There's a bit of a lower high here, but we still have this nice uptrend pattern with a higher low. So continue to see if buyers can maintain it. I think we just need a bit more drive. If we do see a bit of a pullback tonight in US stocks, do expect probably maybe a move down to test some of these areas here. And moving on to FX. So as discussed before, we had a rate hold this week, and it didn't do too much. So we can see that the Aussies had a bit of an interesting week. It's mainly moving with the dollar. It started low. Then we had a move up, and then it's pulled back mainly, and it's sort of sitting around. There's some support down 64.79 down to 64.75. The euro's been a little bit better. We can see a couple, a few days of rally going on, but the resistance remains up at 1.0784. It's really interesting, isn't it? It wasn't that long ago that we did see the euro, below parity, and it's just has made a very nice move back so forth. You can see that support area here as well at 1.0751 on the weekly. We'd probably want to see, we can see a pullback above that level at the moment, but we'd want to see that level hold moving forward. And there's a bit more action on the yen pairs at the moment, so we'll jump into them in a moment. The pound as well, looking at support down at 1.2525, and there's a bit of short-term resistance at 26.26. But they've been a little bit better than Aussie this week. The only worry I think for the pound is there's a bit of a break lower here. Even though there is support at this area, it does look a little bit bearish. So I think we will need to see a little bit more, downward pressure on the USD to sort of get momentum back going there. Now, just moving on, obviously the USD CAD has been softer this week with oil. We'll touch on oil shortly as well. You can see a few days decline as oil's really piled on the pressure this week. And taking a look at some of the yen pairs, our favorite at the moment, we can see the Aussie there's support at this level here. The euro quickly, nice breakout yesterday, and from a nice area of support, 2 points of support here, nice breakout above 160.06. Can see a break of that downtrend as well. This could be a continuation. You probably want to see a bit of a pullback now, get a higher low to try and get in there if you're on the sidelines at the moment, and then see what happens if we do get back to 161.45, and then again up to these areas. But the pound looks pretty good at this stage. You can see it's testing this resistance here. Again, you'd probably want to have been in a little bit earlier, but it's broken above this short-term resistance at 187, and it's up testing this resistance at 188.3740. If we see a breakthrough that area, that would be quite interesting to see, and then we will see a bit of a firmer breakout. So if we did have a breakout and a pullback and then a new move higher, it could be a good idea to have a look at the pound to the yen, as long as the yen continues to move lower. So looking at on the weekly, it does look a little bit overextended, but you can see here there's a nice little inside pattern there, and this needs to break above that resistance to sort of tell us that trend is going to make the next step higher. So looking at so going to go to oil. I'm going to try and keep this video a little bit shorter today, guys. I do drag on a little bit, covering too many things. So oil, weekly wise, we can see strong support down at 69.53. There's further support on the weekly 72 even basically, and then there's a short-term resistance up at 78.67. Now if I have a look at the daily, we can see how good this week has been. It culminated with yesterday's 3% rally, and we'd like to see what happens now if price can get back up to test this area at 78.73. That's really been the stopping area. That's where we want to see price break to tell us the buyers are serious, and we'll continue to see if price can get back up to test and break that area. We want to see this level hold here at 72.21 if we do see some downside. Now, before we touch on some of the things coming out next week, gold's really done nothing this week. It's been very choppy. Bit of a diagonal pattern going on. Definitely needs a bit more time. Silver, similar story. It's had a very nice rally yesterday, and a little bit more drive than gold, but it has been falling this week, and we had a bit of a recovery session. Higher low going on here. Range bound once again, like gold. A lot of resistance at 23.25, and some good support down here at 21.87. Bit of inside here. We really need to see a bit of momentum either down or up to sort of forge an idea of which way buyers and sellers are trying to go. So Bitcoin has had a very solid week, guys. We've seen a breakout above 43,680. We're trading all the way up to 46,177. That's the point we'd like to see tested at 47,134, and this looks pretty good at the moment. Nice move higher. So obviously we're going to see pullbacks, but we would like to see what happens up at this level if we do get back up there. Ethereum, Similar to Bitcoin driving higher, that's the big resistance point. We've had that mini breakout, and there's support at 2270 and down at 2193. Some of the other coins, Cardano had a really good session yesterday. It really fired up, and we can see a breakout here. Shortly, a small breakout. We have plenty of resistance from this level here at 54, and then once again up at 57, and then up here at 64. But strong support being shown here at 0.46. At the moment, things look to be on, going in the right way. We just need to see, if we do see a pullback, we want to see a higher low and then another move up to test 57. A couple of others looking at earlier. Axie, a bit range bound. Sol's been fighting back. It's up 1.96% today. It's back at this sort of key resistance that's been keeping it in check since really going back to early January. If we get a break above this level, we'd like to see if we can get back up to test that 119 area. Key, solid support at 94, and then more solid support really from 80 up to this area here at 90. So we'll see if we can get a clear of this level and then continue to run up. Ripple we'll touch on as well. So Ripple has been trying to get a move going with some really key support coming in at 49.73, but again it's pretty sideways at the moment. We don't start seeing the momentum that we're seeing in some other coins. Even for instance, obviously Bitcoin's leading, but we're seeing Ethereum as well, and even coins like BNB for instance. They are showing very strong drive, and that's the worry for Ripple. And BNB is nearly back up to testing highs that were put in a couple of months ago. So that was back on the 12th. So it's a bit of a worry there for Ripple in terms of its key demand. So some of the things coming out. Obviously, we had just to finalize on the news before we wrap up this update, guys. Employment data out of New Zealand, we saw an increase, better than expected. So unemployment slipped to 4. There was a bit of news today which is driving the Kiwi that interest rates may be going up in New Zealand. So there's been a bit of a positive response to that from the Kiwi buyers. And moving on, this week's unemployment claims, 2.18k. We had comments yesterday from the RBA governor, comments coming from the RBA from this morning from the RBA governor, which has been driving Aussie around a bit. We have Canadian data coming out today as well. And moving on to next week, some of the keys that we are going to see. Governor Bailey speaking from the Bank of England. We have New Zealand inflation expectations, CPI data coming out from Switzerland, US CPI data, which is probably going to be the highlight of the week, UK CPI data, bank holiday in China for New Year's, that's all week, and then we will see employment data coming out from Australia. Now that's important because we've had lower than expected CPI data, the RBA under all types of pressure from the local populace and the media to cut rates, and when are they going to cut rates? So that'll be interesting to see what comes out in that employment data. If it's much higher than expected, that is going to cause some issues. We have GDP coming out from the UK, and then into the end of the week we have core retail sales from the US, retail sales, and then Empire State Manufacturing Index and unemployment claims. And we wrap up with retail sales from the UK and more inflationary data on Saturday from the US with the core PPI and the PPI and prelim UAM consumer sentiment to wrap it up. So we will do an in-depth outlook video for the news on Monday, but that's just a bit of a touch of what's coming next week, and there's a few good ones in there. So that's it for today. Definitely keep an eye on stock indexes tonight. There hasn't been a lot of key news, but there's been a lot of momentum, and it's quite decent momentum as well in stocks. Cryptos are going fantastic, so keep an eye on them moving through, and then keep an eye on the pound yen, a few other of the pairs to the yen, to see if we do get further moves upwards. So thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend, and bye for now.